What's up guys, welcome to FoundFlix and an ending explained for a movie I've gotten a bunch of requests for. Annihilation, the newest sci-fi film from Alex Garland, following a group of scientists sent on a mission to learn the secrets of the mysterious dimension known as Area X. This is definitely a more cerebral or harder science fiction kind of story. Its overall universe and concepts are interesting and unique, and the film is a visually impressive head trip. Difficult kind of science fiction that isn't made too much nowadays, which I'm a big fan of. So let's check out Annihilation, analyzing how the overall story and major theme of self-destruction form the backbone of the film, looking in depth at the Shimmer and its specific properties, as well as explaining the ending, which is honestly pretty out there. We first meet biology professor Lena in quarantine after having returned from Area X, having been on the other side for 4 months, now finding herself surrounded by people in hazmat suits, interested in learning what happened over there. However, when interrogated about the specifics, Lena has trouble recalling what she saw, answering "I don't know" to many of their questions, though we do pick up that she is the only one from her group to return from the dimension. Then we flash back to seeing the initial incident that created the Shimmer, which is extraterrestrial in origin. A meteor falls from the sky, crashing right through a lighthouse, and it's from the source of the crash that the Shimmer begins to expand. The Shimmer being the boundary of Area X, noted for its, well, shimmering, slick, and colorful waving surface. Now a quick little science lesson to give us insight on what's up with this new entity that crashed to our planet. Looking at the specific building blocks of all life on Earth, cells. Our body is made up of many of these, and yet is born from one existing cell, and then one cell became two, etc. This dividing pair becomes the structure of every microbe of every life from humans to plants. Yet unfortunately for us, the cells that make up humans, human Hox genes, are from their very foundation faulty, as over time they age and die. But what if there's a cell that doesn't have this fault? It would be able to expand continuously without ever dying. And this is what we are seeing happening now. A new life form arrives with its own cell structure that is unlike our own, which begins to grow from the crash spot. And over the 3 years since the crash, the Shimmer's boundary is continuously expanding, and in time will completely consume our entire planet, leading to our own annihilation. This is where a shady company with government ties called the Southern Reach comes in, headed by Dr. Ventress. In order to understand what the Shimmer is, and potentially how to stop its spread, the company has sent in several expedition teams to the other side, and consistently anything that has ventured into Area X has not returned. Until now, that is. Lena's husband Kane, who she met while both were serving in the army, was part of the previous expedition crew, and after a year missing, all were presumed dead. Until one day, out of the blue, Kane returns home to Lena's surprise and relief. Though physically he appears to be himself, he is quite confused about many things, and only has a vague understanding of who Lena is and what is going on. And her questioning of him feels quite similar to Lena's own state when she returns from Area X in the opening. The reason Kane is acting oddly is because this isn't in fact her husband that has returned, but a semi-functional doppelganger created by the Shimmer. We'll get into more of that in a little while. Of course, Lena is completely unaware of this even being a possibility, and thinks that her husband is merely ill, suddenly getting sick and coughing up blood. He's rushed in an ambulance to the hospital, but before they can make it, a cavalcade of black cars arrive courtesy of the Southern Reach, taking Kane and Lena to the facility in order to keep what happened under wraps. Here, Lena meets Dr. Ventress, who reveals that Kane is dying due to massive organ failure, though they don't know why. We learn Ventress is already preparing another expedition into Area X, this time led by her with exclusively female scientists, having used mostly male military personnel like Kane previously, and that didn't turn out so well. And later Lena meets the team who is going on the expedition, and through them we begin to see that concept of humans and self-destruction being intertwined coming into focus via their respective backstories. Anya is a former junkie, now sober. Josie cuts herself, not to hurt herself, but to feel something. Shepard was destroyed by the death of her daughter due to leukemia, and Ventress also is suffering from cancer, keeping it a secret, but is obviously hoping something inside the Shimmer will help her. So each of them are willing to venture into this dangerous unknown dimension because in a sense, they have nothing left for them here, and it's their own self-destructive nature that drives them forward into doing the mission, along with a clear through line of depression amongst them as well. Lena, on the other hand, is a bit different than the others. She also is self-destructive. In her case, having had an affair with a colleague while her husband was off on his secret missions. And it seems that her husband did find out about their affair, and it was this discovery that led him to take the mission into Area X, as he had been betrayed by the woman he loved. Thusly, he also felt he had nothing for him on this side. This isn't made 100% clear in the movie, but we see that Lena appears very guilty over her husband's fate, as her having an affair was responsible in a way for what happened. And this is what pushes Lena into joining the mission. Guilt related to Kane and her affair, saying only that she owes him. But unlike the others, she does have a reason to come back, as it's her entire goal to help her husband who is on our side, which is why she is the only one of the group to return. But that eventual fate is a long way off from now, as their mission is just getting started. The group head inside through the boundary of the Shimmer, and instantly things are completely out of whack, with Lena waking up confused and disoriented, along with the others, who don't even remember setting up camp. And based on the rations in their packs, they have somehow already been out here at least 3 to 4 days, as impossible as it seems to them. So we see right off the bat that this dimension has very different properties from our own. Time works in a completely different way, and that's why it's probably no surprise that their comms don't function and their compass doesn't either. This development concerns the others, but Ventress knows better from her previous experience spearheading the missions, and is like, duh dudes, we've been sending people over here for 3 years and not gotten a single signal from any of those fools. Why do you think any of that stuff would work now? But they at least know the area, formerly a state park, and if they continue to head south, will eventually reach their destination of the lighthouse. As they head deeper into the dimension, they encounter the first real effects of the Shimmer's distinct kinds of cells, discovering flowers that all look different and don't appear to be the same species, even though they are growing from the same branch structure, which shouldn't be able to happen. They describe the plant as being stuck in a state of continuous mutation. In a human, we would consider this to be a disease or pathology, and this is the main property of the Shimmer cells as described previously. The cells are able to continuously divide and expand forever without dying. As far as how this crossbreed mutation is possible, they describe it as the cells being refracted, the Shimmer acting as a prism, and everything within the boundary is refracted or distorted in the Shimmer, including the DNA of any life there. So anything within the area has its DNA fundamentally changed by the introduction of the Shimmer cells. In the case of the flowers already growing here, each of the individual flowers' DNA intermingled with the Shimmer cells, creating an entirely new life and crossbreeding between the species. They quickly get another example of this in a much more dangerous form when they are attacked by an albino alligator, seen equipped with additional concentric rows of teeth, typical to a shark. So every life form that is within the Shimmer is changed and crossbred with other DNA here. And these mutations grow in intensity as they venture closer towards the lighthouse and the Shimmer's source of power. Their next destination is the former HQ of the Southern Reach, now completely overgrown in the 2 years since it was abandoned, finding leftover beds from a previous team, and a guard rotation schedule on a board, which shockingly to Lena included Kane, so it was her husband's team who had been here before. And they learn more about what happened to them, finding a plastic baggie with "for those who will follow" written on it, and a video memory card inside. Playing the tape, we see Kane looking deranged, holding a knife on another soldier, slicing his stomach open, seeing that his insides are moving, dashing around in there like big pink worms in his tummy. Yes, humans too are affected by the Shimmer, and their cells are also refracted by it, causing them to mutate like all other life here, eventually causing the people to lose their minds after prolonged exposure to the dimension. And we see the end result of the guy in the tape, his mutation continuing to the point of separating his body, and becoming a plant or tumor-like growth on the wall, which I gotta say looks pretty freaky. This is enough for the others to become concerned, but after Shepard is dragged off into the night by a big bear thing, later found dead with her throat ripped out, the others are adamant to head back. But Lena convinces them the best way back is actually by following the coast forward, even though she admits in the later interrogation that she said this because she wanted to keep going, undeterred by any obstacles like crazy bear things killing people. Getting closer to their destination, they stop at a former town, seeing the Shimmer's effects are even more pronounced here, coming across people shaped like plants standing in human-like positions such as holding hands. These people's DNA changed so much, evolving to become plants growing in the shape of their previously human bodies, with Josie noting that if you were to scan one of the plant leaves, you would find the human Hox genes that make us up, which have now been crossbred with plant DNA by the Shimmer's cells, completely changing their physical makeup. And of course her own crew are subject to these same mutations, and the longer they are in the dimension, their own DNA is beginning to change further. Lena taking a sample of her blood, seeing her own cells refracting, and later in the interrogation seeing that the DNA amongst the team even intermingles, with her now sporting the same tattoo on her arm as Anya, and the tattoo is of a snake eating itself. Yet another representation of self-destruction. Speaking of Anya, she isn't coping too well with any of what's going on, witnessing her own fingerprints moving in her skin, and begins to lose her hold on her sanity, similar to the soldiers of the previous crew. Up until now, Lena had been hiding her connection via Kane to the rest of the group, which has now been found out by an increasingly on edge Anya, finding a locket with Kane's picture, leading her to tie up the three others, and seems to be just about to cut one of them open when a call for help from Shepard is heard nearby. Huh? What? How could that be? Anya rushes out after it, but it's not Shepard. It's that weird skull bear guy who's back, and who now can apparently emulate the voices of the dead too, screeching out for help in a completely bizarre and disturbing manner with Shepard's voice. The idea being that by Shepard being killed by the animal, she has become a part of it, and it specifically did tear her throat out. So perhaps in that way it was able to also take her voice. The women do their best not to react to this monster as it enters, sniffing and terrifyingly looking them over. A wounded Anya returns, opening fire on the animal, distracting it from the others, but turns it on her, Anya getting mauled and destroyed by the bear. Josie then getting free and able to stop it. Later, realizing her time is running out before she's no longer herself, Ventress sets off for the lighthouse on her own, leaving the other two behind. Talking with Josie about what to do next, Josie doesn't want to keep fighting like Lena and Ventress, accepting that she is changing into something else, and lets go as plants begin to grow from her arm, and she wanders off, disappearing, presumably evolving fully into a plant person state like the other scene. Lena alone breaks down in the woods crying, but steadies herself, with no other options but to continue her desperate search for answers, and finally makes it to the coast, spotting the lighthouse in the distance. Upon approaching it, seeing what appears to be graves for other previous people that made it this far, but clearly they met an unfortunate end, and these could perhaps be others in Kane's group. Stepping inside the lighthouse, there is a hole surrounded by growth, which we can see based on the trajectory is where the comet crashed, and Lena notices a scorched body on the wall as well as a video camera still set up. She plays it, seeing Kane in his final moments. Having been in the dimension so long, having taken a serious toll on his physical and mental well-being via continued mutation, and is unable to bear it anymore. He then speaks to someone off screen, asking if they get out of here to find Lena. "I will," a voice says in return, and Kane pulls the pin on a flash grenade, incinerating his body. The person steps into frame, revealed to be Kane, or rather his double created by the Shimmer, who we saw makes it out of the dimension, and who we realized did indeed do what he was instructed by the original Kane, and went right to Lena when he got out of Area X. She is understandably shocked with this discovery, and realizes, well, only one thing to do after that huge bombshell: head down into the hole. No turning back now. After entering through a tunnel caused by the meteor's crash, she enters another area, what could be considered the Shimmer entity's ship, and this must be what was inside the comet that crashed, as the walls here are drastically different than anything else seen in Area X, and appearing meticulously constructed into the designs and shapes. In the middle of the room, she finds Ventress, on first appearance with less facial features including no eyes, but when turning back to Lena, appears normal. But it's clear that her change is about to begin. She is overwhelmed by what she now understands about the Shimmer and its intentions by being so close to the source of its power. She says she doesn't know what it wants, or if it wants, but it will grow until it encompasses everything, our bodies and minds becoming fragmented into their smallest parts, with nothing remaining. Essentially, annihilation. And we see this actually happen to Ventress as she begins to writhe, then vomiting shimmering beams of light from her body as her body becomes undefined and joining amongst the Shimmer as a flowing void of colorful clouds with a glowing aura in the middle appears. This trippy display is kind of the Shimmer in its closest form to the entity itself, as at this point it has no form of its own until Lena, kind of hypnotized by the light, moves closer to the source, which pulls a few drops of blood from her eye into the cloud. And instantly the cells begin to multiply with its new DNA information, creating a new life form based on Lena, emerging as a kind of metallic looking humanoid, and the energy cloud is gone. Reactively, Lena fires at it, but of course bullets do nothing. But it does not make a move or attack, appearing ambivalent, and she runs back up the hole, finding the being already there waiting for her. And when Lena starts to move, something interesting happens. The entity mirrors her movements exactly. This not entirely formed being is based on Lena's DNA. So in this sense, it is a projection of Lena, learning from her, and that is why it mirrors her actions. This encounter is to represent the entire humans are self-destructive concept of the film in its most direct form, with Lena literally facing herself and getting in her own way as humans impulsively do. This is illustrated when she tries to run to the door, but before she can open it, her double has pinned her to the wall, running up behind her with equal force, suffocating her with the weight of her own self, showing once again that it is ourselves that are often our own worst enemy. As its form gets closer to resembling her, Lena is able to outwit her double, getting it to take another flash grenade from Kane's supplies, escaping as the grenade goes off in its hands. What happens next is odd and a bit hard to define, but after the grenade goes off, the entity appears to drop it, seen as the third flare here on the ground, but its arms are still engulfed in flames. It seems that what has happened is that the entity's cells haven't previously encountered fire, and it unwittingly tried to duplicate it as well, and it confusedly tries to touch Kane's body, also setting it ablaze. And the fire continues to grow in size as the being returns to the tunnel with a trail of fire, destroying the double along with the lighthouse and the crystal trees surrounding it. It seems that with something as simple as a grenade, the entire Shimmer was in fact destroyed. And presumably after this, Lena made her way back to Southern Reach, where she finishes up her interrogation with the curious listeners. But there's the lingering question of, is this the real Lena that returned from the Shimmer, or her double? There are a few moments in her encounter at the lighthouse where she blacks out, leaving this time unaccounted for, with any number of possible switches occurring here. Yet each time after these blackouts, the entity is still seen in its metallic form rather than Lena's. And it's not until it takes the grenade that it starts to really resemble her. And there are no blackouts after this moment. And we saw Ventress becoming more unformed as she changed, similar to the Lena double looking more and more like her. Our Lena never starts to physically change or devolve to match what happened to Ventress. So this is why I believe that it is the original Lena that gets out. But if it's her or her double, it doesn't really matter, as neither of them are the same Lena that entered. If it's the original, her DNA has been entirely altered by her time in the Shimmer. Back at the interrogation, we see this change quite clearly with her drinking water, and it begins to instantly mutate. So her DNA is entirely taken over by the Shimmer, but isn't affected by this as much as Kane, since she wasn't in the dimension as long as he was. And more evidence is added in the final questioning that the explosion destroyed the entire Shimmer, Lena being told that a team has just returned from the lighthouse only finding ash, and whatever she encountered there is dead. Since none of the teams have come back from the mini treks to the other side, for them to be able to go so easily to the lighthouse and back shows us that the Shimmer was most certainly destroyed by Lena. But even without the Shimmer, Lena is still around, with her DNA being mutated by it, along with Kane, who after the destruction of Area X has suddenly recovered from his near death. as though he couldn't survive in our dimension as long as the Shimmer is around. But it's not anymore, and the two are reunited, both eyes seen shimmering with color. So maybe the Shimmer doesn't need to exist anymore because it has agents with Kane and Lena, a couple whose entanglement, both with themselves and their doubles, have left them shells of their former selves, having been permanently dislodged by the Shimmer. As the Crosby, Stills, and Nash song that must have painstakingly been picked that plays in an early scene says, they are one person, they are two alone, they are four for each other, which not only ties to their newfound mutations, but also that concept of the division of cells themselves as they expand. And with the two of them, it's possible to create a third cell in a way, a child, and thusly many more from there, spreading the Shimmer into her own dimension in a whole new way than previously considered, even if it is no more. Phew! Well, hopefully all that made sense and helped with any questions about the movie and its story. Now, I'm not saying my thoughts are written in concrete or 100% accurate or anything like that. That's part of the fun of stories like this, is each viewer making their own interpretation. And this video's analysis is simply what I believe to be going on. So what do you think? And that'll do it for my look at the heady sci-fi film Annihilation. After all that, I feel like my brain has completely melted. Or maybe it's just the Shimmer getting to me. Ah, crap. What did you guys think of Annihilation and its ending? What do you think will happen next with Kane and Lena? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Thanks for watching FoundFlix. See you next time.